Did you love her?
Yes.
Did you feel that she loved you?
Yeah. She asked if I had ever killed anybody. I think there's somebody that would like to talk to you, and it was the Richens family private investigator. He told me that Kouri had done it, you know, that she was guilty. He couldn't tell me why, but she and that changed everything for me.
Kouri Richins' secret lover takes the stand against her. Why prosecutors think he is the key to their case. And an insurance policy shakeup. State witnesses detail beneficiary changes made right around the time Richens' husband died. Plus, closing arguments expected in the murder trial of Dale Warner. This morning, the best of the state's case. And the best of the defense's case, the accused killer's fate will soon be in the hands of the jury. It's all next, right here on Opening Statements. And welcome to Opening Statements. I'm your host today, Kelly Craft. I'm sitting in this morning for Julie Grant. Just like in an actual trial, we are getting you ready for what's ahead this morning in court. It's time for your daily docket.
We never really lived as a family.
Did you take on a kind of a father role with Dee?
Yes, unfortunately.
Okay. So one time when she was in high school, she had a big blowout party that you had to break up?
Yes.
Your wife is Shelley?
Yes.
Okay. Did you see Dee try to emulate Shelley?
Yes.
Okay. In what way?
In all ways.
Okay. Dress?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Her outgoing nature?
Can I have a minute?
Yes.
In Michigan, closing arguments expected in the murder trial of Dale Warner. Court begins at 9 a.m. We will take you there live. And in Massachusetts, the assault trial for Lucy Medina, that resumes at 9 a.m. She is accused of slashing her husband's throat, claiming self-defense. Also in Utah, the state's case continues this morning in the murder trial of Kouri Richins. Court there gets underway at 11:30 a.m. Eastern. And that is where we are going to begin this hour. Life insurance and divorce took center stage Wednesday. The jurors also got to hear testimony from one of the state's highly anticipated witnesses, her lover, Robert Grossman. Here's a look at some of the key moments from court.
So on June 14th, what is the question of Kouri?
The question was if the drug fentanyl was prescribed to Eric Richens, and that's important because the $50,000 accidental death benefit rider as well.
Excuse me, just one second. That extra $50,000 is on top of the $250,000 policy.
Yes.
Okay. Go ahead, continue. I'm sorry.
It provides a provision and an exclusion where the prescription would need to have been provided by a doctor and administered on the advice of a doctor in order to be payable.
And what does Kouri Richins say?
She said that the fentanyl was not prescribed, and she also added that she doesn't know how her husband got that.
The next day, Kouri Richins called again?
Yes.
Okay, and what was stated in that conversation?
It was the same thing that she provided us, that the drug was not prescribed.
Okay.
And that she doesn't know where it came from.
On June 21st, did she call again, asking about a status?
She did.
And what did you guys tell her?
We told her that the $250,000 claim was paid, but the most recent claim, the $100,000 claim, was still being reviewed.
Okay. And why was it still being reviewed?
That was a brand new policy, and so whenever we have a death that occurs within 2 years of the effective date of coverage, it becomes a contestable claim, which just means that we will review the application questions and the insured's medical history to be sure that the answers were accurately answered.
Because this was 1 month.
Right.
Okay.
Did, sir, there come a time when your relationship turned romantic?
Yes,
About when?
just before driving to Utah.
So right about the outset of Kouri.
Right.
During that time that you were romantically involved with Miss Richens, did you love her?
Yes.
During that time, did you feel that she loved you?
Yeah. I have a tendency of going head over heels, though, probably more than most. So, you know, I think she did.
Did you exchange text messages with Kouri Richins?
Yes.
From the time you moved to Utah, about how often?
Daily, unless she was mad at me or vice versa.
Let's go ahead and bring in our guest this morning to discuss what we were listening to right there. Criminal defense attorney and former prosecutor Noah Pines.
Morning.
Morning to you. Law enforcement expert and trial consultant Sonny Slaughter, as well as attorney John Phillips. Good morning, everyone. Thank you so much for being with us today. Noah, let's go ahead and start with you. We were listening to Kouri's former lover on the stand. What did you take away from his testimony?
His testimony, I think, was really bad for her. I mean, I also heard some of the text message exchange that they had. You know, that first question is like, did you love her? Yeah. Do you think she loved you? Like, you know, and it kind of goes to show that maybe Kouri manipulates people in her life. And I don't know if you heard any of those text message exchanges, but she's like talking about this fantasy life. Wouldn't it be great if we could just move together, like leave here? It's almost like leave reality, and I don't think it paints her in a very good light.
Sonny, how does that kind of testimony sit with the jury?
Good morning, everyone. I think the testimony really strikes a chord with them, just like Noah said. I absolutely agree. I think she's a manipulator. When I first saw John Grossman, I looked at him and said, he looks exactly like Eric to me. So I think she is a master manipulator and a con artist, and I don't think that the jury, that it's going to sit well with her. I don't think her behavior sits well with them either.
John, what do you take away from his testimony?
I mean, I agree with the people in the boxes next to me. You already have a jury considering an affair, a cheat, a liar, and now the cheater, liar, affair, beau is saying, yeah, I don't even know if she loved me. Reading these text messages, it's not good. And so, this always was building to get Grossman to testify and kind of expose this and the life insurance and some of the other jail writings, but it was a bad day for the defense.
Sonny, John just mentioned the life insurance policies. What do you take away from those? Always looks suspicious.
Yes, they do. So I used to do probate work in Alabama. So wills and trust and life insurance policies. And when you have a suspicious murder, the fact that she got them early, not too far from the date of the murder, and then she was constantly trying to get the money, constantly trying to manipulate those that were in charge of the finances. This is the setup of all setups. I think the state really brought their big guns out yesterday, and we are seeing Kouri for who the family has seen her for a very long time.
Noah, I'll bring you in on that question about the life insurance policy. A lot of families get life insurance policies. They have children, they have one another. So some jurors could be looking at that as, okay, this is just a normal thing to do. The timing, though, as Sonny was mentioning, kind of raises some eyebrows.
Yeah, I mean, most people, you get life insurance and then you literally put it in your file cabinet and you forget about it, right? And you hope that you never use it. But from the testimony I heard of her allegedly trying to change the beneficiary of one policy and then going back and forth, and then asking about this other policy, and the policy that we just heard about, I think just went into effect 30 days before the death. That shows the manipulation that we're talking about. And while the state doesn't ever have to prove motive, juries like motive, and this, this ties in with the fact that she was in debt for, her business, and this actually shows that there is a financial motive.
Yeah, that financial unraveling of the business is a big factor here. John, what do you think? What do you think is the biggest thing that the state has put forth so far, the biggest piece of evidence the state has brought forth to the jury to really kind of make jurors think, you know what, I think this is all adding up here, that Kouri is the right person that they have?
Yeah, it's the apple pie, right? So that they've put it all together with all the different slices, and a jury doesn't have to look at all the individual slices, but the testimony about drugs, and even the defense and cross-examination during that, where we went off on this, wild trail about the gummies and where the gummies were. But when you disassemble the defense at each stage, and then you have guys like Grossman and all of the like life insurance is boring to talk about, and this lady did such a good job to tie it together and be like, oh yeah, and the policy changed months before the death. It's like, oh, okay, well that certainly is a big problem for the defense. So it's just they've served up so many pieces of pie. I think this jury's full of food to feed a guilty verdict.
Yeah, lots of things that the state has put forth so far. Doing a solid job, I think, so far. Sunny, what do you think?
I think absolutely. I think both of my colleagues have really connected the dots, and I think that's what the state has done. They have taken the small pieces of pie and really put them together to create the full meal, and what the jury is eating off of now is everything that they have heard. They can feed off of that and say, you know what? This woman is full of it. She is a liar, a manipulator, and the meal is finished with this.
Yeah, good way to sum it up, Sunny. Thank you. We're going to continue on with the Kouri Richins case. We're going to hear more from her lover on the stand. That's coming up next.
Did she ask you a question about killing?
She did ask me yeah.
What's her did she ask?
She asked if I had ever killed anybody.
Plus, we are counting down to closing arguments in the trial against defendant Dale Warner. The key testimony that could tip the scales of justice.
Worked hard all my life. I learned the secret to success is speaking in your authentic voice. And I bring that lesson to my show every morning.
Opening Statements with Julie Grant. Weekday mornings at 8, 7 Central. Only on Court TV.
Kouri has paraded around portraying herself as widow and victim while trying to profit from a book about his death. I never knew evil like this existed.
The Grief Author Murder Trial. Live coverage weekday mornings 8, 7 Central on Court TV.
When you discovered him, was he on the bed? Yes.
He was just laying on his side like normal.
Okay.
I just thought he was cold. It was cold in there, so I put the blanket on him.
Yeah.
His body just felt like heavy.
The Kouri Richins murder trial rolls on later this morning, but Wednesday's testimony from the defendant's ex-boyfriend is what's trending in true crime. Robert Grossman was the last witness of the day for the state, and his relationship with Kouri quickly became the focus, including meeting up with the defendant in the days after her husband's death.
Did there come a time after Eric Richens' death when you met up with Kouri?
Yes.
Do you recall the first time?
Yes.
About when was that?
I'd guess 2 weeks, 10 days, 2 weeks, something like that.
What happened when you met up with him?
I forget where we met, but we rode up into the Uinta Mountains together two vehicles, I think. I can't remember. We both wound up in hers, though, in her vehicle. We sat there and talked.
Did you talk about Eric?
Yes. Yeah, that was the first opportunity to really, that was the first time.
Did there come a time during that discussion that Kouri Richins asked you about killing?
You want me to contextualize it?
Please.
So yeah, we sat there and talked for quite a while, and I had never seen her that way, obviously. It was a heavy conversation, and I'm not used to that with her. She's not used to being open like that. So at one point, my opinion then, probably still now, looking back, was that, she was looking for any reason. I think she was exhausted emotionally. And I think she was looking for a reason to divert the conversation away from herself, because she does that. She does that about lots of things in every normal life, and I think that's what she did. She asked me, go ahead, I'll let you ask, I know you.
Sure.
But
did she ask you a question about killing?
She did, ask me yeah.
What's her did she ask?
She asked if I had ever killed anybody.
And was that specific to killed anybody while serving in Iraq?
Right.
Did you respond?
I did.
Did she ask a follow-up question?
Yes.
Sir, what was that follow-up question?
She asked me how it made me feel or something along those lines. And then I answered her. I took it as not out of the normal, though, really.
Did you and Kouri Richins stay romantically involved after Eric Richens' death?
Yes.
For how long?
You'd have to look at my phones to tell me that. I'm going to guess, bless you, 6 months, maybe 8, 10.
On cross, Grossman went on to say he never thought anything intentional happened to Eric and never suspected Kouri of harming him. So, did Kouri Richins' ex-boyfriend move the needle in her trial? Let's go ahead and bring in our guests. Still with us to discuss, criminal defense attorney and former prosecutor Noah Pines, law enforcement expert and trial consultant Sonny Slaughter, and attorney John Phillips. John, I'm going to start with you this time. What do you think of Robert on the stand with the jurors? What do you think they are thinking of him? Here they are having a relationship. Kouri is still married. She's sending him texts, telling him she's hopeful someday he's going to be her husband. How do you think the jurors are perceiving him?
He is a fascinating witness. So it starts off that he's head over heels and kind of comes across sensitive, but he's also got this military background and kind of tough guy thing, and clearly has worked with some of the attorneys to go through the story. And what me as a trial lawyer finds even more interesting is why he's wearing a black shirt. And as I'm kind of processing the way he looks and the way he's talking and kind of anticipating questions, he's an extremely good witness. I don't know that I'd put him in a black shirt, but sometimes we don't control that. But it's fascinating, and having dealt with murder for hire cases with Joe Exotic and other cases in my life, the fact that obviously came up and and her trying to reach out and go person to person related to the dealing with death or killing is also fascinating. The jury has a lot to think about here.
John, I feel like, and my eyes may not be working too clearly this morning, but I feel like it looks blue to me here. I don't know, the shirt looks a little blue, but.
I literally did one of these trying to maybe a navy.
Maybe navy, I think navy, but you know, no, we were talking about the dress when witnesses take the stand, as well as the defendant, how a defendant portrays themselves when they're at trial. So since John brought up the dress, let's just jump into that. Talk about that. What do you think of Kouri's attire?
Yeah, I'm not a fan of the way that she's dressed. She looks very cold. I understand having a conservative kind of a look, but that the top she's wearing with her hair pulled back, and she just looks very hard. And I've seen a lot of pictures of her where she's smiling. Obviously, she's not going to smile during a trial, but she looks much softer in real life. And that look right there is, I would have been like, that is not what you're going to wear at all.
Sunny, what's your take on that?
I absolutely agree. She has, the way they have her hair pulled back makes her look like a nun, very conservative, but hard. And of course, she is not going to smile, but her clothes, her affect is all off. And they need to put her hair down and let her look. They need to humanize her because she does not look humanized in anything that I've seen her in thus far, including with her affect. She just looks all wrong and all off. And I think the jury is noticing that. And even how she looks at the people on the witness stand, not good. She probably shouldn't look at them the way that she does.
Sunny,
I would probably keep my eyes down.
Are you talking about how she's looking at her ex-boyfriend on the stand? What are you taking away from that look?
I think she it's like she's trying to convey, I need you to look at me. I want you to look into my eyes. I want you to feel that manipulation that I had over you before. But how she looks at everyone, but really how she was looking at him, like, come on, don't tell the truth. Just kind of like ad-lib a little bit. But she's trying to signal to him that she wants something else to come out of his mouth other than what is. And like John said, his shirt, I would not have worn that. You can see the undershirt. He just looks too much like Eric for me. They should have done something else with him.
Noah, what do you take away from the testimony when he was saying that Kouri asked him if he had ever killed someone? Now, granted, that was in the context of him being in the military. He followed up on that. How do you think that is sitting with the jury?
I mean, that's a legit question if you're in a relationship with somebody and you know that they've been to combat, like, hey, you know, what happened in, you know, maybe not the first conversation, but you could understand maybe asking that, especially if he has any PTSD related to it. But the timing of the question after her husband gets killed, to be like, not have you ever dealt with death, because she's dealing with death, is like, have you ever killed somebody? And how did that make you feel?
Yeah.
That's really bad timing for that kind of a question. Now, while he said it didn't seem unusual, I think most of the people in the jury is going to be like, why would you ask it then?
Yeah, the timing seems odd, Noah. Okay, we're going to squeeze in a break. Coming up next.
Were there times you ever called or texted your mom that she didn't respond to you?
The only time that she's never responded to me was when she was killed.
Did you observe your mom and Dale fighting?
Just about every day.
We are going to turn to Michigan and the spotlight, the very best of the state's case against defendant Dale Warner. In our spotlight this morning, the trial of Dale Warner, who was accused of killing his once missing wife, Dee. Both sides have rested, and we expect closing arguments later on today. Dee Warner went missing in April of 2021. Her body was found 3 years later, welded inside a fertilizer tank. Dale Warner is charged with first-degree premeditated murder. Here's a look at some of the most powerful state witnesses, beginning with Dee's daughter, Amber.
Do you see your mom again on Saturday?
Yes.
About how much later?
About an hour and a half to 2 hours later after the game.
Okay. And again, approximate time frame?
Between 11 and 12.
Okay. And is there anything about when she came back that you remember?
She was hysterically crying when she came in to the house.
Okay. Where were you when she came in?
I was at my desk in my room.
Okay. And so she just, Dee just came in the house?
She came in the house and directly into my room.
Okay. And what happens when she gets in your room?
She sets her phone on my desk with a text message opened.
Okay. And if I showed you that text, would you remember it?
Yes.
All right. Showing the witness people's proposed 87.
Yeah.
That's the one she showed you?
Yes.
Did you read it at the time?
Yes.
What was the gist of the text?
Somebody was mad at her for getting in their business and
Okay. What was your mom's reaction to that text?
she went, after she set the phone on my desk, she went directly into my bathroom connected to my bedroom, and she threw up and was crying and just saying she was done.
And did you know what she meant by when she said she's done?
She said, "We're selling everything, I'm done."
This is 8033, a future plan or intent. Go ahead. What was she saying about what she wanted to do?
She said, "We're selling everything, I'm done."
Okay. And what did you take that to mean?
She was done with her marriage.
Okay. Did the text that she showed you involve Dale?
Yes.
How did it involve Dale?
At the end of the text message, the person said, something along the lines of, even your husband says you're a mess and takes Xanax.
Do you know what her habit was with her phone? As far as keeping it with her, putting it, not having it?
Attached to her hand? Yes.
All right. Were there times that you attempted to call her?
Excuse me.
That's okay. Were there times you ever called or texted your mom that she didn't respond to you?
The only time that she's never responded to me was when she was killed.
Did you observe your mom and Dale fighting?
Just about every day.
Okay. Do you know the basic topic of the arguments?
Typically, the fights were related to money and something related to one of the businesses.
Did you attend the autopsy?
Yes.
Did you watch Dee Warner being taken out of the body bag?
Yes.
Were you present when Dr. Cho opened up the tarp that contained Dee Warner's body?
Yes.
Okay. What did you observe inside the tarp?
I observed the remains of an adult female wearing vagina-like clothing wrapped in duct tape. There were a few small pieces of jewelry on her person.
Here to discuss in studio, criminal defense attorney Noah Pines and remotely attorney John Phillips. Okay, gentlemen, thanks for sticking around with us this morning. Noah, I'm going to start with you. Talk to me about this Dale Warner case. We're going to be expecting closing arguments starting here pretty soon in about 30 minutes.
Yeah, I mean, when you have the children of the mother testifying against the husband and giving damning testimony, I mean, that's not very good for the defense. You have to have an answer to that. And with this, they argued, it was about money. She said she was done, and then she ends up where she ended up. I mean, that's a very strong case for the prosecutor.
John, closing arguments in about a half hour. What do you think we're going to hear from the state?
They're just going to pound the narrative. When I first started looking at this case, you read the transcripts and you read the narratives and you hear anhydrous tank and rural and all this. And then you get to see the witnesses and like he said, how well the family conveyed the story and the narrative and kind of how we were at this pressure point. And then she disappears. They're gonna push that narrative home to the jury and probably do so with some as much passion as they can muster.
Noah, in the openings from defense counsel, we heard a lot of things like, the evidence just isn't there. This is all just a theory. Those are common things defense counsels use a lot.
When they have nothing else to say.
When they don't have a lot to say.
The state can't prove this beyond a reasonable doubt is a very I got nothing to say about this evidence, and I'm gonna rest. Start and rest on it's their burden. That's the problem with an opening like that.
And it is a very high burden when you're practicing. I mean, you must say that to the jury so they understand the reasonable doubt. It is such a high burden.
Yeah, I mean, the best defense has a factual defense, a legal defense, a theory, and also relies on the presumption. When you're just relying on the presumption, you typically don't have those other pieces. Now, that doesn't mean you can't, fight a case based on the lack of evidence and the state's presumption, but it's way more difficult. Defense never has to put on any evidence. We don't have to give any theories, but it's always good to give the jury something to, stay away from the state's case.
John, one of the things we've heard from defense counsel in this case, especially in the openings, there were a lot of other people that were on the property on this particular day. How do you think that's sitting with the jury?
Exactly what he just said. When his defense attorneys, and those days are mostly gone for me. I'm doing the civil side, but when you're pulling out the reasonable doubt chart and really focusing in on the reasonable doubt chart or whatever graphic you're using instead of the who, what, when, where, why, alibi, that's the tough case, right? And where we're headed here is just kind of finger pointing for the sake of finger pointing. And while we don't have to prove motive, you've had these kids come up and be like, yeah, this was at a precipice. This was at a point, and I saw him fight every day. It's not going to take the jury, a magic witness walking in. They use common sense, and they're instructed to use common sense. And no matter how busy the burden is, there's got to be a defense, and I don't think kind of wild finger pointing or maybe not this, maybe not that is going to carry the day.
Noah, do you think we'll hear defense counsel say in closings, kind of address the fact, a lot of couples argue. The state wanted to bring forth that. We heard from the children talking about them arguing all the time about a myriad of issues. Bring it up, own it in closing, say, yeah, lots of couples fight. Doesn't mean he killed her.
True, but not many, spouses end up in a tank like that, tied in duct tape. That's so unusual, right? It's such an unusual place to find a body. So yeah, the defense is gonna, everything that they can rely on, they'll rely on, but they're gonna have to give the jury something other than the state didn't prove it beyond a reasonable doubt.
Yeah. Coming up, we'll hear all about it from defense and the state. We're gonna take a closer look at the defense's case when we come back, the witnesses that could tip the scales of justice. Stay with us.
We never really lived as a family.
Did you take on a kind of a father role with Dee?
Yes, unfortunately.
Worked hard all my life. I learned the secret to success is speaking in your authentic voice. And I bring that lesson to my show every morning.
Opening Statements with Julie Grant. Weekday mornings at 8, 7 Central. Only on Court TV.
Kouri has paraded around portraying herself as widow and victim while trying to profit from a book about his death. I never knew evil like this existed.
The Grief Author Murder Trial. Live coverage weekday mornings, 8, 7 Central on Court TV.
Now for what's tipping the scales in the trial of Dale Warner. Closing arguments are expected in about 15 minutes. And now we are taking a look at the best of the defense case. Who do you think was the most powerful? We heard from Dale Warner's ex-wife, their employee, and Dee Warner's brother.
Do you know Dale Warner?
Yes, I do.
How do you know him?
He's my ex-husband.
When did you get married to Mr. Warner?
December 30th, 1988.
And did you date him for a period of time before 1988?
Yes, almost 5 years.
So how old would you have been when you first started dating Mr.
We
Warner?
were 16.
How long were you married to him?
Almost 15 years.
And what year did you get divorced?
2003.
When you were with Mr. Warner for the years that you were together, did he have a cough?
Yes. He didn't have it when we first met, but over the course of time, he developed some sort of cough. He had to clear his throat a lot and a cough. Probably in the last 5 years, maybe.
The last 5 of your marriage?
Yes, probably.
So what year would you say that started?
That would be purely a guess, but...
Well, you got divorced in 2003, so it was
right,
1998?
Yeah, probably, yeah, probably.
Did the cough develop or change over time?
I think it got a little bit worse over time. I noticed it more.
If you had to describe what it was like, can you describe that?
Well, it was a lot of throat clearing, you know, or a cough. It wasn't like a deep cough. Yeah, it was like a throat clearing.
And did you see Mr. Warner after you got divorced? Were there still occasions where you would run into him?
Yes.
Within a day or two of Dee going missing, the defendant called you, correct?
Yes.
And he, at that time, he indicated to you he wanted Cameron to come and do the books for the business. Is that accurate?
Yes.
You were talking about a cough that the defendant had while you were married to him. Is that accurate?
Yes.
Okay. And do you know anything about anhydrous ammonia?
I know it smells awful.
Ever been around it, or?
Yes and no. Just because of the farm, you could smell it in the field sometimes when you drive by.
If the defendant indicated during an interview on May 3rd while he was coughing that his lungs were burned from anhydrous ammonia, would you have any reason to believe that that wasn't what caused him to cough?
Objection. Speculation.
She doesn't. I'll withdraw the question.
What was your relationship like with Mr. Warner?
Pretty much the same. It's pretty much the same.
Would you say you were closer with Miss Warner or Mr. Warner?
Closer to Dee over the years, actually, yes.
When was the last time that you saw Miss Warner for a date? What date?
It was Friday, the 23rd of April.
Of April, what year was it?
2021.
And around what time did you see her?
It was around 3:30 p.m.
Where did you see her at?
In the office.
And what was her demeanor like?
She was agitated. She was not herself. She was not dressed normally. She was wearing sweatpants and just a loose-fitting top, and she wasn't made up like normal. She was just not dressed like herself.
You made a public request for anybody in the public who might have an idea to come forward, didn't you?
Yes.
How did you do that?
I did it with billboards. I did it with podcasts. I did it with news media were very helpful. Anybody that I could make, and you depend on your friends to pass the word, and that's how I did it.
Approximately how many billboards do you know?
Well, there were 2 or 3 standard billboards, and then there was a very kind gentleman. We never really lived as a family.
Did you take on a kind of a father role with Dee?
Yes, unfortunately.
Okay. So one time when she was in high school, she had a big blowout party that you had to break up?
Yes.
Your wife is Shelley?
Yes.
Okay. Did you see Dee try to emulate Shelley?
Yes.
Okay. In what way?
In all ways.
Okay. Dress?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
And her outgoing nature?
Can I have a minute?
Yes.
Here to discuss in studio, criminal defense attorney Noah Pines and law enforcement expert and trial consultant Sonny Slaughter. Sonny, I'm going to bring you in first. Before we get to Dee's brother, let's talk about the cough. The ex-wife on the stand talking about her ex-husband's cough over the course of a number of years. What did you take away from that testimony?
Well, I took away that apparently he had some exposure to this chemical, is what she was saying, but that he had the exposure prior to all of this. I'm not sure why they brought her in, whether she was supposed to corroborate some type of testimony about the cough or what. I found her helpful, I guess, for the defense, not so much for the prosecution, about their relationship and acrimony. But it did cause me to think that, based on what was said previously, he did not ever want to go through a divorce again. And then that was the kind of complication in there, and that he would probably do anything not to go through a divorce again because of what he had to sacrifice and let go of when he got divorced from her.
Noah, what did you take away from the ex-wife's testimony?
Yeah, I know we didn't watch all of it, and I didn't pick the clips to watch, but it didn't move a needle for me. I mean, if that's the best of her testimony for the defense, okay, who cares, right? I mean, you've got to, when you're bringing in witnesses for the defense, it has to be, I'm bringing him for a certain reason, you know, whether sometimes it's character, sometimes it's to establish a fact, sometimes it's to, you know, to poke holes in the state's case, but you just can't have this kind of loosey-goosey, like, oh, we're married when we were 16. Like, okay, who cares? Like, why are you here? That's how I like to put it on a witness. You know, don't bore us. Get to the chorus. Get to the good parts. Tell us why you're here and how you're going to help.
Don't bore us. Get to the chorus. I've not heard that. That's
I stole from John Bon Jovi.
Okay. Well, that's good to know. My girlfriends are all friends with her. They love him, so I should probably listen to more of his music, but he was my generation. But no, I want to talk to you about the main witness defense counsel had. This is Hardy. He was brought to the stand. He's so emotional. Dee's brother. And why did the defense bring him?
I don't know.
You don't know?
I don't know.
It's perplexing because he was so emotional. He was so close to Dee. I was curious about it, and we've been talking about it around here, too. Sonny, what do you think? Why did they bring him as their witness?
Because they were trying to say early on, this is what I was thinking because I couldn't understand it first. Remember that he had some culpability. So that was supposed to be their reasonable doubt. It didn't make sense. Like, none of you could understand it. But that was the only thing that I could think of because he clearly loved his sister. But they were trying to say, well, look at this person instead of look at me. That's the only thing I could think of. Because he just, bless his heart, he just fell apart.
Yeah, I mean, he searched for her, put up billboards. Noah, maybe that's, part of the strategy. That's something defense counsels do a lot. Maybe we don't have anything to work with here. Let's just confuse the jury.
Maybe that's it, yeah. I mean, or if you're going to blame him, you got to kind of lay the groundwork for that. And I didn't see that in the testimony, but I guess we'll find out during closings, right?
Yeah.
Why they did it.
Why they did it. We'll have
if they address it.
Yeah, well, I would think they would, but we'll see, and we're going to find out soon because closing arguments are going to be starting any moment. Sonny, thank you so much for your insight. Noah, thank you as well.